Well, before I do this review, I've got to clear out my last review, which was X-Men Legends, and because of that, I brought figures off the shelf. I have no clue why I put them in here. Okay people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Today I'm taking a look at the Hasbro Overwatch Ultimate series Mercy and Pharah. And since I don't know how much Ultimate stuff I'm going to be buying, I'm going to throw a male figure in here just for variety and to compare all together, because this may be my one and only Overwatch review. I want to get a good comparison of the line. And before we get into the review, I'm just going to reiterate, much like the Power Rangers last week, I do not know anything about Overwatch. I followed the Figma line. I kind of like that each character has their own purpose, their own look. I'm always a fan of that. So when Hasbro announced theirs, I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to give another line a try. It's just more toys for the shelf for me to play with. If I like them, I'll buy more, and if I don't, maybe not. But if I don't know the name of a gun or the character's full history in depth, you'll have to forgive me. Now, taking a look at the packages, you can see, well, you can't see everything that a figure comes with. There seems to be stuff hidden behind the graphics in the window, and there's definitely something back there. But it does a good job of showing us what the character looks like, and then the figure behind it, kind of a comparison straight, just right there. On the side, we have what I assume are graphics from the game itself. And then unlike the Power Rangers line, here on the back, they're giving us a little bit of information on the characters themselves. I appreciate that, especially being somebody that doesn't know this property. You get names, you get ages, you get ranks, or what they do in the game, and then on the 2-pack, you get the winged heroes Pharah and Mercy work together to win the battle from above. That's just a brief synopsis of what they do. On Reaper, unless I'm missing it completely, there doesn't seem to be anything like that. So they may have omitted it from the singles for whatever reason, maybe room. On the other side, you get graphics that travel around from the front. I really dig this, just continuity, whoop, around. On the top, Overwatch symbol. On the bottom, your UPCs, your legalese, your stuff that nobody ever looks at. But I'm gonna get these open, and we'll see if these go on the shelf or these go on in tub. Okay, as I was opening it, I noticed something, so I put it back together just to make a point. Like I said, looking at the package, you can't see some of the stuff that it comes with. It's hidden behind these graphics. But once you pull the tray out, it's kind of deceiving because, bam! That looks way more bang for your buck. With the extra hands, the stuff hidden down here, the wings hidden back there, the staff. I understand, and I can appreciate some good package art. But man, if more people saw what you actually get with the figures, they may be more apt to try the line out. Looking at Mercy first, because I do believe, I think that she's my favorite out of these three. Now, I know Overwatch has its own style and stuff, and we'll talk about that here in a minute, but overall, Mercy catches my eye the most. There's actually some hidden sculpt in here. The white is the color of the plastic, and for the torso at least, they didn't do any kind of shading to bring out this nice shoulder pad detail up here. But the figure's not without its paint because of the yellows, the orange. There's even some fade kind of in there to bring the yellow and orange together. Then the yellow down here, again, fades to the orange reddish color, and that's just nicely applied. And the legs cast in brown, cast in this metallic gray color. Then some black here on the back, and again another fade back here. And what paint is applied is nicely done. I just feel like there's not a lot of paint here. Maybe some silver punched in. Here's a logo of some kind. Same thing up here on the arms on both sides. So the colors are striking. There's just not a lot of it. But you get up to the head, and I kind of like how the eyes and lips are applied here. They did a good job of making it detailed. There's a goldish eyeshadow. I even like the eyebrows. There may be a slight wash to the hair, but even it's just cast in its own color and just left to its own design. The halo is plugged in on both sides, so it's fairly solid. It's not going to go anywhere, but it looks really good from the front, almost like it's floating. And then we get to Pharah. Because she's an armored character, Hasbro went with their swirly twirly plastic that's supposed to look a little bit metallic, and I like it. I know some people don't, but for me, it makes it a little bit ethereal, a little bit eye-catching. It makes the base colors of the body more dynamic. It stands out a little bit more, and then when they come in with the paint, which is almost the same amount as Pharah, here's some gold, there's some red, some more gold, some silver, and then it's just punched in here and there, but because of the whole base body together, it stands out on the shelf a little bit more. On the back, you can see it's a little bit more plain. It's not as detailed. Don't get me wrong, there's sculpt here, and it's nicely done. And on Pharah here, it's brought out a little bit more because of the sheen of the plastic. But when you get right down to it, not a lot of paint. But then we see the same thing here as we saw with Mercy, and that's just a nicely painted face. It's hidden behind this big beak looking thing, but that's how it is in the game. They couldn't really get around that. But you can see iris, pupil, a little bit white gleam to the eyes, and then this tattoo coming down off this side. I'm not quite sure what that is. And then the same silvers, the same golds, the same blue metallic plastic. And then get along to Reaper. Overall, very nice sculpt. I like the sharp edges of the metal parts, the armor parts. This floating overlay, well, it's not quite floating. It seems to be attached somewhere. Oh, here in the back, it's anchored down. The rest of it floats, though, to get up and out of the way of the legs. The leg armor, nice and crisp. It looks like armored legs, you know? A little bit plain to the pants. It does have a little bit of detail just thrown in there. I feel like just to break up the large field of what I think is blue jeans. But then the back armor, the more shoulder armor, the sleeves coming down. I'll talk about the proportions when I have them all lined up here in a minute. But again, I'm not saying it's bad paint. I'm just saying it's minimal. It's minimal paint. And being from a video game, maybe that is accurate. But to me, looking at it, this green just seems kind of plain. Same with the blue down here at the legs. It's just all this shiny gray plastic from the knee down and then painted just a little bit right there to bring it up above the knee. But I say that with all three figures just kind of as a personal aesthetic. I like a little bit more detailed paint job, but for this line being what it is, based on what it is, it seems accurate from what I've seen online. And in that respect, Hasbro did a good job. You can't deny that. But I will say, action figure wise, I do have a couple of gripes with articulation, so let's get into that. Top of the neck is a hinge going up to what I assume is a ball joint, but because of how the head is sculpted down around the neck, it doesn't give you a lot of tilt there. But Mercy can look down, a little bit up. The collar kind of gets in the way here. Swivel, hinge and swivel at the shoulder comes up to there. Rotates around. The body doesn't really get out of the way, so it juts the arm out whenever you come up. Hinge and swivel at the elbow comes up to about 90. Then swivels, hinge and swivel at the wrist. And just like we saw with Power Rangers, there is a ball joint at the mid torso, and then lower torso there is a hinge. So you get a little bit forward at the ball, a little bit back, tilt, tilt. I love me some tilt. But then down here you get hinge forward, hinge back. Ball coming out to the hip, you can come up to about right here before this skirt piece starts getting in the way. Back, not so much. Out, not bad. Again, this is hindering a little bit. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee somehow gets in the way of itself. It only goes, well, this is not bad, don't get me wrong, but it goes to here. Hinge at the ankle comes all the way back. Forward, slightly forward facing pin for rocker. It's more down, so you get more of a twist. And even with the heels, it's not too terrible to get it standing. And surprisingly, Pharah is a little bit more impressive in the articulation department, except for the neck. Because of the hair hanging down, because of the helmet coming, because of the backpack up here, you can't really get the head to look up, and that's a shame because she's a flying character. But she can look down, and there is a lot more tilt to this head. Swivel. These big honking shoulder pads are on a ball joint, so they do get up and out of the way of the hinge and swivel at the shoulder. And then you get into position, you can bring that down, lock it out. Swivels around. Swivel at the bicep. Hinge at the elbow. No. What is that? 45? Hinge at the wrist. Swivel. Same setup. There's a ball joint here. There's a hinge here with both. She gets way forward. Back. Tilt, tilt, and then rotation up there. Hips comes forward. You have to rotate a little bit out to get the armor to miss her torso, but it does come all the way up. All the way back because there is hardly any sculpt back here. But you come out, the armor's going to crash right there. Again, for about 45. Swivel at the thigh, nicely hidden behind that thigh armor right there. Double knee comes up to right there. I think that's further than Mercy. Hinge at the ankle. Look how much open space is right there. Ankle hinges back, forward because of that space right there. And then Pharah's forward-facing pin is a little bit more forward-facing. But then we get to Reaper. There is a hinge hidden up under the head right there. You can come forward. You can look up a little bit of tilt. Swivel. There's a butterfly joint at the shoulder, forward, back. Coming out of that is a hinge and swivel, comes up to about right there. Swivels around, and then on the end of that swivels for kind of a bicep swivel. Double elbow still doesn't come quite all the way up, but past 90. That wins out of these three. Hinge at the wrist, side to side. I forgot to mention with Pharah, she holds guns. Reaper holds guns. I would have liked to seen up and down here. Again, the same setup in the torso. Ball joint here, hinge here. Tilt, tilt. Not a lot of forward. He doesn't really crunch. Back, rotates on that upper torso. Ball joint coming out to the hip, comes all the way forward. Back, not so much. Out about right there. Swivel at the thigh, and I was kind of worried about that until I actually moved it. It looked like these were attached to this, and I thought it was going to hold it back. it's sculpted separately. Whoop. Double knee comes up to about right there. Hinge at the ankle comes back about there. Forward there, not much. And what did they do at the ankles? What, did Mattel take over the feet on this one? It's side to side, just rotating horizontally. There's no tilt to this. After the thought that was put into Pharah's ankles to open it up for some movement, Reaper's here has no gap. Hardly. You can go back, but that's about it. For accessories, Mercy comes with this staff. It looks like it's opening here on the end. The color scheme matches her body perfectly. And then it has this energy effect that pops up here on the top. You can see there's a mushroom to the peg. Pops, stays on there nice and tight. And I love me some clear translucent plastic. And speaking of clear translucent plastic, her wings are also, it's a little bit lighter than the flame, but it's a yellow translucent plastic, and then the white is painted up here. And with that, those just pop into her back on both sides. And that's a good look. They can't come quite all the way forward. If you try to pull forward, it pops. Oh, well, of course you're not going to do it this time. It will pop the ball out if you go too far. But that's better than the ball breaking off. Not bad. Looks good. Even from the side, it flares out. That looks even better. I like the side shot. And then she comes with 2 trigger finger hands. It's a loose fit there. You got to kind of rotate it up and around. This thing is way heavy for that hand. It doesn't really... Okay, there you go. The pegs on the hands are a little bit long, a little bit thin. When you pull them out, they're a tight fit. I'm kind of worried that they may snap off. But she also comes with right fist and splayed out left hand. For Pharah, same situation, 2 trigger finger hands, and then she comes with 2 fists. She comes with this rifle or big pistol, whatever this is. A little bit of red here up on the top, some gold stripe right there, but it's mostly silver and black. And then here's a pistol. Wait a second, this one's white. Does this go with Mercy? It sure fits her hand. I warned you I didn't know the game, didn't I? But it sure as hell matches her color scheme. And then Pharah also comes with her, well, I guess these are rocket boosters, jetpack of some kind. She comes with 2 of them, ball joints on the ends. They feel kind of hollow, a little bit cheap, but that makes them light, so it doesn't drag her back as much as what you would think if these were big, heavy pieces sticking out of the back. Now, right here, looking inside, it almost looks like there's a hinge with detents on it, but it doesn't seem to move. It's just sculpted that way, I think. Then there's these. For some reason, I thought these would go to Mercy, but these go to Pharah. So Mercy gets a pistol. Pharah gets some blast out of her jetpack. Now, there are right and lefts, up and down for the pins on the end. And you'll notice here, there's a peg hole and then a peg hole on bottom. I don't know why they made them specific to each one, because you could only put them in certain holes. But get those in there, they kind of blast out. Now, because I've talked about how cheap these are, when you add these solid plastic transparent pieces to it, there is a lot of back weight to it. Your center of gravity, you got to kind of lean her forward a little bit. But the set also comes with a flight stand. It has the Overwatch symbol down here at the bottom. It's got a hinge at the bottom of the arm, and then a hinge up here at the top, and then a closing claw on one side with detents on it so it locks into position. That's all fine and dandy. You can get it around the waist. You can have them up above the ground, but it only comes with 1 stand for 2 flying characters. I would have liked to have seen 2 here. Also out of the package, this hinge right here, it wasn't tight enough to hold them in position if you wanted to move it a little bit, but there is screws right there, you can tighten it down. But really, you have this position where they're floating above the ground, or you can flip this over and then clip them from the front if you want a flight position. But only Mercy looks up, so this doesn't work for Pharah. And then Reaper comes with 2 trigger finger hands. Look at the proportions here. Again, I'm going to talk about this here in a minute. Comes with a right fist and a left open hand. And then this being Reaper, he comes with 2 of his shotguns. Are they shotguns? They have 2 barrels on the front. It's cast in the same metallic plastic as his legs, so that matches up perfectly. Then it comes with 2 effects for the guns. Transparent red plastic, kind of rubbery, but you need to watch the end of it because it only goes one way in these double barrels. And on top of that, for some reason, the pegs are a little bit long. They are flimsy. But once you find the right position and then plug them in, and it goes all the way on. So of course I have that upside down. Try that again. See how it goes over the barrels and it goes all the way down to the body of the gun. And once you find that position, it stays on. It's not all crooked. The other way, there's a gap. It doesn't really work. Guns are a little bit tight in his grip, but totally works. But this kind of throws me a little bit. For the 2 female characters, yes, Pharah is a little bit thin in the torso. The lower legs really, really thin. So they match up really well, and it's not as noticeable as the proportions on Reaper. Now don't get me wrong, looking at the game, the aesthetics are like that. But looking at this reminds me of later Toy Biz classic series, like Wolverine with the high crotch, the long arms, the huge hands and feet, and then itty bitty head. The two females are more realistic, but again, looking at their game models, that seems to be how it is. So I can't complain about it too much. Like the colors, like the paint, the proportions here are just not my personal taste. But if you're using this line for custom fodder to add to your Marvel Legends or some other line, keep that in mind because it won't work as well as what you're thinking. Because here they are with the Marvel Legends Black Panther and the Star Wars Black Series Stormtrooper. Bigger bodies, smaller heads. Same with the Marvel Legends Invisible Woman and the Marvel Legends Infinity War Black Widow. And I know there's a Figma Overwatch line, and it's been tempting here and there, but these are the only two Figmas I have. I can only assume that the Overwatch Figma line is about this size, so the Hasbro line may be a little bit big to supplement it. So at the end of the day, the line is interesting, but I don't think it's my cup of tea. There's some things done right, there's some things done wrong. And it probably helps to have an attachment to the property itself, but looking at it from an action figure standpoint, I love some of the articulation choices, but I also hate some of the other articulation choices. It just feels like too many people had too much input into it and it all just kind of mashed together. Now that's not taking a shot at any design teams, that's just, I don't care for their choices. I do like the two female characters just as generic female action figures, but Reaper, I really don't like at all. And that's not because I wanted the, more well-known skull hood Reaper look. Just as an action figure, the proportions I don't care for, the weapons are hard to put in his hand. Anyone holding a pistol should always have up and down wrists. But most of all, the ankles are a tragedy. In this day and age, there should not be a lack of rocker ankle. It just adds so much to the posing. It's required at this point. So yeah, not my cup of tea. If you're a fan of the property, go ahead and pick them up. They're pretty good action figures that look like the game. But if you're buying for customs, if you're buying just to try out, if you're a little bit interested, I'd buy more Star Wars or Marvel Legends or something else. So if you like the review, comment, like, subscribe. I'll catch you on the Fwoosh.